right, now we are getting into day 2, starting off with round 8, which is actually going to be the only round that we have for the day, even though there was 9 rounds, because the 9th round kind of got botched. We were supposed to watch the match, then we couldn't watch the match, then it didn't start. I don't know, lots of stuff happened, but anyways, round 8, we're going to have the TheDuelist92 versus Gavone. The Duelist, newcomer, have not seen them around in most of these tournaments. If they have been around, they haven't made a top cut, etc. Gavone, on the other hand, also known as the Chad Stride, seems like he's making that shift to Gavone now. Has actually topped before Duels of Runeterra, so good to see Gavone back. Really pulling for him here. Maybe he'll be able to make the top cut. We'll see. So round 8, the Duelist92 versus Gavone. Let's go ahead and get started with day 2. They're both X and 2, which means that whoever loses this has a pretty high chance of missing the top cut, and whoever wins has a much higher chance of making the top cut. So this is one of those games that we like to do towards the end of day 2. Towards the beginning of day 2 to see who's actually going to make it. It looks like we are already getting into the game, so let's go ahead and get on over there.
Yeah, so Gavone is opening with Heimer Lee Sin.
Okay. I like it. I know we tried
the exact deck list.
Looking at Gavone yesterday a couple times, but I think we only caught him towards like the end of a game or so. And I know you mentioned his lineup was pretty original, right?
Slightly original. So he's done some weird things, as Gavone has in the past. You know, we saw the Trundle Ladros, but instead of playing Sejuani, he plays Thresh, and he plays a Rekindler. Instead of, the Targon Lee Sin, he's playing Heimer Lee Sin. I believe this is the first Heimerdinger deck that we've actually seen, so I am excited to see how this one plays out for him. And then for his last deck, it is a very standard Lux Aurelion Soul, except you took out the Lux for Garen, and then I guess just forgot to take out Remembrance, or maybe just still values that card, but it is definitely not often that we see Remembrance outside of a Lux deck.
Okay, then. Well, yeah, that is interesting. So we'll see what happens here in game 1. We start with the House Spider on the side of the Duelist. Going to get that free 3 damage, it looks like. Gavone thinking about using a Mystic Shot here, maybe to preserve his life total a little bit. Really mulling this over, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see it. Yeah, it looks like he is going to do that Mystic Shot. I don't hate this. I mean, it does preserve his life in a matchup where he might need to do that, as he is playing for sort of more of a late game with this Heimer strategy. I wish we could talk to him and see how Heimer's done, because like you said, we have seen zip for Heimer all of day 1.
He actually sent me a spreadsheet of his matchup breakdown, so I can tell you actually exactly how well his Heimer deck has been doing.
No way. Okay, awesome.
Let me take a look at this, because I know he said it was banned twice, which honestly surprises me. I can't imagine him going into a matchup like this, and I'm like, yeah, I'll ban the Heimer release. And I feel like that's just, kind of residual hatred for the Heimer left over.
I think that's a product of something we always see, which is if it's a deck that's not currently being played a lot in the format and people aren't familiar with playing against that deck now, then they're kind of scared of it, and they're just like, I don't want to think about how to play against that deck in this match, so I'm just going to not worry about it.
That's fair. So his Lee Heimer deck so far is 4-3 in this tournament, so not a phenomenal win rate.
No, I mean, that sounds like, if he's X and 2, it sounds like that's probably a majority of his losses then, if that's the case, or at least like a third of his losses. I can't do math very well. We all know that, so so we'll see if that's the case. But we do see this Chump Wump getting Chump blocked by the Spiderling here, and Gavone. I mean, we have the Heimer. The thing with Heimer, and man, I got to get used to casting Heimer again. This is different.
Yeah.
So the thing with Heimer is you always want to try to get Heimer down when your opponent is kind of exhausted of mana. For instance, right now, the Duelist is sitting at 3 mana, but something like a Noxian Fervor could still remove this Heimer. So playing it here, even though you have the mana, would be a little risky on the side of Gavone.
And even if Gavone gets down the Heimer, I don't necessarily love the position that puts him in against the Twisted Fate Swain deck. The red card comes down and clears out all the turrets. Make It Rain has a high chance to clear out most of them. As we had mentioned, there's a lot of removal for the Heimerdinger. And of course, we can't forget about Riptide Rex. We constantly praise Bilgewater decks for having a good Ezreal matchup because it's so easy to just completely wipe the board and kill that Ezreal. It's going to do the exact same thing against a Heimer deck.
And I guess... Wow, man. All right, so enlighten me, Boulevard. Lee Sin and Heimer. What are the best synergies there with that duo? It seems a little odd to me.
It feels like the main overlap card is going to be Flash of Brilliance, sort of the card that put Heimerdinger back to the forefront of everybody's mind of, oh yeah, this is back down to 3 mana, we can get our free turret and still have some cool stuff to do. So I guess you're really just trying to, one, play Heimer Ionia, which I know that players have still really been experimenting with where they want to put the Heimerdinger. Flash being in the same region as him. I've seen Targon, I've seen Freljord, I've seen Ionia. Of course, Ionia is what we played before. But I mean, I don't think that the Lee Sin really fits the same slot as the Vi. I had talked a lot yesterday about how Lee Sin, Trundle, and Vi feel like similar champions, but Lee Sin requires a lot more build around. And maybe because you're already playing this spell-heavy Heimerdinger deck, it fits in a little more organically, but I definitely don't know that I love it more than the Vi. But maybe Heimer is in a spot where you need that alternate win condition, but this is the one Lee Sin deck that we've seen that has no way to give him Overwhelm.
Yeah, we got the 2 deep meds now getting drawn by Gavone, so definitely has a lot of refuel in his hand to, deal with anything that might come down from the side of the Duelist. But again, with Gavone already being at 11 health, you got to figure that the Duelist is sitting in the driver's seat right now. We're already on turn 7, and although Gavone kind of wants to go into the late game with this Heimer and just start pumping out turrets, like we mentioned, Leviathan Swain's a thing, and it's a pretty big thing, and I'm not sure if Gavone's going to have an easy time dealing with that.
Yeah, we're already approaching turn 8, and Gavone has put down very little pressure so far this game, and as long as the Duelist hangs on to 3 mana, Gavone doesn't have an answer for the potential Noxian Fervor, or at least doesn't have the mana to do it. It's hard to get Deny and Heimer down in the same turn, and if you pass with Deny mana, you're not proactively playing turrets, and the Heimer really hasn't accomplished much for you. He's already going to fall down to 9 life. Duelist has 6 damage on an open attack. We do have that stun, but as you had mentioned, we don't have an answer for a Leviathan, and if we stun 1 unit and a Riptide comes down, I'm pretty sure Gavone just dies, or at least we'll have to pop the health pot, and then still has potential to die to something like a Noxian Fervor.
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, I'm a fan of this deck now, though.
Did you see the one
Yep, bingo. Nailed it. There is one submersible in this deck, which I will say actually kind of fits the strategy, right? I mean, there is a lot. Obviously, Flash of Brilliance is going to pump out different spells. So I think submersible has some merit. Heimer obviously creates new cards and turrets. So I do like the one of. I might even stretch it to be 2 of. I'm surprised there's not 2 of in there. So I would love to see a submersible come out, but would actually just love to see a win in all reality with this Heimer deck. And it's really not looking good right now with Gavone already being at 7 health. And there is 2 health potion. We do have 3 Eye of the Dragon, which we finally just drew one. So that's actually really good. That might be able to get Gavone back in this, but it might be a day late and $1 short here.
Yeah, the Claws of the Dragons actually seem a little bit strange to me. Just kind of, that anti-aggro card that was really phased out of Ezreal decks even towards the end of the format. Same thing with the Heimer decks. It doesn't feel great. And now, if we had seen a Riptide Rex there, it would have been pretty close to lethal. We would have at least had to pop a health pot. And then Gavone could have finally developed a Heimerdinger, which he can still do here. But, I mean, he's on thin ice, and he doesn't really have a great way back into the game. And that's what we've been critical of with the Heimerdinger, is without the elusives, your late game doesn't feel nearly as impactful. You can try and create infinite units and overwhelm your opponent like that, just out-resource them out, but you're not doing that better than an Aurelion Soul deck.
Yeah, this is definitely a rough spot for Gavone. I'm actually curious. So you have the matchups, right, of what he played. Do you have what those 3 losses were against?
I do. Let me pull it back up.
Wow, this is on point, Boulevard. We got the inside info here from Gavone. Yeah. I'm liking it. Yeah, and we're gonna see some.
I wake up to this man sending me spreadsheets, and I'm like, oh boy. But yeah, it actually is coming in handy.
You know how much we love spreadsheets here in the Legends of Runeterra world. So we do see 2 of the, I believe, what is that? The Wrench bot is the zero cost bot there. We have 2 of those, as well as the Dragon Link. So, there's a chance for Gavone to get back in this, but it's going to be really hard. We see the Lee Sin now as well. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Spirit's Refuge. I feel like that might be a good addition to this deck, and we actually don't see any of it, especially with something like Lee Sin. But, all right, what do you got there, Boulevard?
So he has, one of his losses was TF Swain.
Okay.
Has a 0% win rate there. Is 1-1 against Endure, and his last loss was Discard Aggro. And then he picked up wins against Ladros Combo, War Mothers, Endure, and Fiora Shen.
So Discard Aggro makes a whole lot of sense. That just seems kind of almost like an auto loss with this deck because there's heal, but not quite. Like, even if you draw Eye of the Dragon, I think discard aggro still has a pretty good shot of just doing enough damage to make that not matter whatsoever. So, all right, interesting. So we'll see if TF Swain is going to continue with that 0% win rate here on the side of this Heimer deck. We are getting another spell played, going to get another turret with the Heimer, and there is crucially 2 health potions. So, that's good, but like one of those is essentially negated from this Leviathan. Like he actually, okay, this could possibly return it to the hand to prevent this 3 damage from being dealt, but you got to think the Duelist is going to have some sort of response here.
I'm actually trying to think of what the Duelist could have to respond here. I think that Noxian Fervor isn't out of the question to try and go for lethal here. And if that happens, then Duelist actually can't replay the Leviathan, and that could be the space where we see Gavone start to come back into this one, but is actually just going to let this through. So this Dragon Lane going to make it so that he doesn't even have to use the health potion just yet, can still hang on to that for the surprise factor.
So yeah, one of the things with this Leviathan and Swain is they're big, right? And even though technically you would get another Swain, it looks like he has all the Swains. So, because he didn't grab one. Putting them back into the hand of the Duelist, like that's a lot of mana commitment to redevelop, the Leviathan or Swain. So Lee Sin's very useful as far as that's concerned. The problem is, again, this 3 damage from the Leviathan is rough, and you're not going to be able to return it next turn because the attack token is going back over to the Duelist. So I am curious to see, like you said, this might be the space where the comeback starts to happen, but we need more life gain.
I don't know why he didn't play the last 1/1. Oh, the Dragon Lane space. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, Heimerdinger's Progress Day.
Ooh.
Now that is an effective Leviathan blocker.
I would say so. A free 8/8. We constantly talk about them big bodies, those big boys, right? We had the 9/9 Bright Steel Formation. We have the 8/8 Mind Splitter that, they're 2 of the larger cards in the game that generally, you don't see big bodies attached to more expensive units nowadays. And 0 mana 8/8 I think will do the job quite nicely here.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Every time I try to build a mid-range deck and I'm like, yeah, this is a good deck. And then my opponent throws down a Nautilus. I'm just like, I don't actually have any way to get around that in my entire deck.
Spends the 8 mana on a second Leviathan. I mean, does that... Okay, you do have a stun. Was that 8, 9, 10? He's 1 short of being able to play this Concussive Palm. So if he does go for the Progress Day, he could play the 8/8 and then just block with the Lee Sin and play a Twin Disciples.
I don't think that's a great line. I feel like you really want this Lee Sin to survive into the following turn.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Gavone, you can't pass there. You lose.
Wait, what did he...
Oh, that was a big blunder.
Wait, why did he... What did we just witness? What did we just witness?
I think he wanted to see what else his opponent would do or try to play things after the attack and then forgot that the opponent could just end the round.
Yeah, there's that option where if you pass, they pass, and it just ends.
I mean, at 1 life, he wasn't really in a great spot to try and win it, and that was after he used the health pot. I mean, there are a lot of things your opponent could have to kill you at that point, but doesn't even kind of give himself the chance. That miracle Rocky run for the comeback. I had Eye of the Tiger queued up in the background, closing out of Spotify. You don't deserve it, Gavone.
Oh, we really do need those set up on the soundboard, man. We need cool soundbite songs like that. But yeah, I think, I don't know, hey, listen, maybe it was the pressure, he's just getting into the swing of things at day 2. I feel the pain, it happens. So unfortunately, I gotta agree with you, especially because we haven't seen Heimer. I did want to kind of see that miracle comeback from Heimer, but we won't. But on the flip side, we at least get to see the Heimer deck go for another game. So that is the positive side of this here.
So I noticed earlier in chat that Gavone had both players banned the opposing Targon deck. So the Garen Acel off the table for Gavone, and Duelist, his Targon deck was actually Lee Sin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we've got 2 Lee Sin decks here in the X2 bracket making their way, trying to get to that top 32. I was about to go 32 and just get Irish on it, apparently.
32.
The top 32.
Wow, you do an Irish accent quite well, I'm not going to lie.
So Gavone does open the Heimer here, and looking back at that spreadsheet, does have we're going to say 200% win rate against War Mothers because he beat Trundle Lagos and he beat War Mothers, and they are effectively the same deck, which makes a fair bit of sense. We're not seeing, this is actually not great for the Duelist, who has decided to cut Avalanche and Icequake from the deck, only has one Ruination. Well, there's 3 Withering Wail, which is actually going to get, I feel, a lot more value against the
Yeah.
Heimerdinger deck than probably any other kind of deck. The other interesting parts about this War Mother deck for the Duelist is 1 She Who Wanders and 1 Usgar the Ancient. So we could get our first Usgar here.
I just want to be able to say Usgar more times. So this is awesome. We've talked about this card feeling awkward for what it does, but I mean, honestly, again, you know, I might be personally undervaluing how good a big body like a 7/7 is, and especially when it has something like regeneration, that might come in handy. But I gotta agree with you with the Withering Wail. You know, if we get any of those rinky-dink turrets coming down again, like the wrench bots on the side of this Heimerdinger, or really any turrets for that matter, it's gonna be picked off quite nicely. And wow, okay, Vengeance. This is exactly what you try to play around when you are playing Heimer, but we do see the Vengeance come out early to get rid of it by the Duelist.
This is going to give him the turret, though, and he does have another Heimer in hand. There are a decent amount of Heimer answers in the Duelist deck. You know, we do see the Vengeance out here. There are 3 copies of that on top of 2 Withering Wail. Of course, that Ruination as well. And, I mean, if we see Usgar come off of, you know, a War Mother's Call, that could just come down and kill the Heimer. The other problem is, while there aren't a lot of board wipes, there is a She Who Wanders, and if we just go ahead and cast that one from hand, we are going to obliterate nearly every turret that I can think of. It's not often that we're seeing turrets get above 4 attack.
Yeah, I think actually every single card, every follower and champion in Gavone's deck, aside from, wait for it, Submersible, would get obliterated.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. It's not even definitely. Would potentially get obliterated from She Who Wanders. So I do actually think this is not the greatest matchup for Gavone here. So we'll see how he's able to handle it. Does have another Heimer. And oddly enough, not sure how this is going to come into play later, but a Dusk and Dawn. I would love to see Dusk and Dawn on a Lee Sin, just saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Like, I'm just throwing that out there.
He is 2-0 against these, you know, Freljord Shadow Isle control decks, so I am curious to see. I mean, it's definitely not looking great for him this game, and maybe this is the outlier game, and he's been having a great time so far, but I don't know, man. I'm not sold on Heimerdinger just yet, and if he does fall to X3, this could be the highest seeded Heimerdinger deck. I don't think that's like unreasonable.
Is it the only seeded Heimerdinger deck? Like...
that's also extremely. This could be the only Heimer deck in day 2 for all I know, which honestly might be a higher representation than Ezreal has in day 2.
Man.
Ooh, and that is sort of a brutal troll chant. Can't even use the second Mystic Shot. That 4 sort of health swing on the attack sucks.
Yeah, and a pretty big field, you know, on the side of the Duelist. This is going to be really hard for Gavone to deal with. We have this Heimer, but so we've talked about this, or you've mentioned it too, like you feel like Heimer's kind of a bad Aurelian Soul. I don't know, just looking at the board now, a long time ago when Heimer was good, you'd be like, man, I feel good. I got a Heimer on board. Like, I can do a lot of stuff. Now I'm looking at the board and I'm like, what does this even do or accomplish? Like, it's just gonna give you a bunch of tiny little units that don't do anything good.
Oh, there goes the Dawn in Dusk.
Well, there goes our dreams.
Well, he does draw another Heimerdinger's Progress Day, so drawing 3 Heimerdinger is a great way to try and win the game if you are going to do it. But, I mean, with Lee Sin feeling like a worse Vi, and Heimerdinger feeling like a worse Aurelian Soul, and understanding that I do not want to play an Aurelian Soul Vi deck, I don't love the choice that Gavone has made. It's gotten him to X and 2, but as we had mentioned, 4 and 3, actually up now to 4 and 4, so only sitting at a 50% win rate on this deck. And if it falls 0 and 2 here, that is not going to feel phenomenal.
Well, we do see the Trundle level up here, and that's going to start to put some pressure on Gavone to actually do something constructive here, because this Trundle is going to start pushing a lot of damage, and there's not really a whole lot of great ways to deal with it. I guess technically it's possible if he does something like block it with, Claws, Twin Disciple, and Static Shock, but seems bad. I would like to see a Progress Day that wasn't played last game. I would like to see the 8/8 T-Hex come out, because I just haven't seen that card in a while. I want to see it hit the field.
Yeah, that's reasonable. And at this point, what are we doing with this deny? If something comes down to kill the Heimer, do we just let it go and play the other Heimer? Do we maybe even Progress Day in response just to get the 8/8 and value that over the Heimer? Or because I feel like we need to save this deny for a War Mother's Call. Because if a War Mother's Call ever resolves, I can't believe that Gavone is going to get back into this one.
Yeah, War Mothers, I think, just puts this in the tank. I mean, oh, we see Usgar, though. Usgar is there.
He
He's
does pick up a concussive palm, though.
Oh, and there's a T-Hex. Okay, so, all right. So this is actually a pretty close game now. It just, again, I think War Mothers does blow this out for the Duelist, but Gavone now has a lot of options, and Thermo Beam is a great way to deal with a lot of what Duelist has in the field. Trundle, unfortunately, taking the open attack with the Usgar means we won't be able to Thermo Beam the Challenger unit to protect this this Heimer. We do see the concussive palm, like you mentioned, so I imagine that's going to come out right here.
This is definitely a little awkward. Oh my gosh, 5 cards beheld for the Trundle. That means that there are 3 8-cost cards in Duelist hand. You have to imagine one of those is going to be a War Mother's Call. The awkward part is that with this... Okay, so I like this block because after the concussive palm to save the Heimer, we're only going to have a 5-mana Thermo Beam. And that doesn't kill anything outright, but now will kill the Trundle.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is great. It does set himself up for a pretty good Thermo Beam here. And again, going into his next turn, turn 9, he's going to have a lot of options available. Just a whole suite of spells to be able to start to generate some of these turrets and hopefully start to swing the game back in his favor so we can see this Heimer deck pick up a victory here. Wow, okay.
Never mind, he's actually just letting the Heimer die.
Okay. Do we like this?
I don't love it, but maybe he has decided that... I mean, he obviously has more experience in a Heimer versus War Mothers matchup than I do, and maybe at this point, this is where the Lee Sin starts to come into play. You get down that 8-8, you say, okay, I've got my beefy boy, I don't really need the turrets anymore. This is not the kind of matchup where they're going to get a whole lot of value, because the reason Heimer was so good was because against these decks like this, you said, wow, that's a really tough board to deal with. It's going to take me way too long to out-attrition you, so I'm going to summon a bunch of elusives and just sneak on by. You can't do that anymore, and that's really why we're not seeing Heimer. You don't have as good of a late game when you can't just sneak under the decks that are going over you. So this is, I think, the part where we're going to play a tempo game, just get this Lee Sin out, start kicking stuff back to the Duelist hand. Let me tell you, I don't think that works out phenomenally either. I really don't understand how this beats a War Mother deck.
Yeah, I mean, you could even see there, he let the Vengeance go through on the 8-8 because he did have the option to play Deny, obviously valuing getting that Lee Sin on board. So I do think he's playing a much different strategy than we're aware of. Again, you know, we haven't really seen Heimer. I don't think anybody's really seen Heimer, so very curious how Gavone is going to put these puzzle pieces together to get a win. But this Lee Sin is close to leveling. So I guess the question is, will the Duelist have anything else to deal with the Lee Sin? We've already seen 2 Vengeance come out. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have 1 more Vengeance that would just straight up kill the Lee Sin. Obviously, we have this Challenger unit, but I imagine it will get challenged by Lee Sin this turn and actually end up getting kicked back. We also have Atrocity that could theoretically kill Lee Sin. So I think that's kind of the problem is, again, you always talk about cards that people are pillaring around for their strategy. When you do pillar around something like Lee Sin, you have to have all the answers to make sure that your opponent can't kill him. And I don't know if Gavone is actually going to have enough answers to everything that the Duelist is playing.
So here's a really awkward interaction with the Lee Sin. You can go ahead and kick Trundle back to hand to reset his attack so that he doesn't go up to, 15 next turn. But by doing so, you give your opponent another 8-cost card when they replay the Trundle. So the Trundle will be bigger than it currently is when it goes to attack, but at least it's not a 15 attack Trundle, right?
I mean, yeah. that's kind of just looking on the bright side. That's the consolation prize he gets. It doesn't feel great, but it is what it is. It looks like that's what he is opting to do here to kind of save his life total at least a little bit. Gonna pull the pillar with the turret as well. So we'll see if we are able to get this Lee Sin to stick to the board with this Dragon's Rage basically starting to go off every turn here. Does also have a 6-mana Thermo Beam after this, so would have the option to kill, looks like the Usgar after everything is said and done, which would definitely help him keep this Lee Sin on the board.
So I have... What is this?
Wait, what?
Does nobody understand how Lee Sin works?
I'm going to go with a solid yes on that one.
So every time I see someone go for the Lee Sin effect, they go to give him Barrier. And like Gavone didn't have to give him Barrier.
Yeah.
You just need to challenge with the Lee Sin. He doesn't need the Barrier.
Whoa. But here's the 10-headed play, though. He knew his opponent would get the Unspeakable Horror for the Barrier.
Don't you say that.
So he knew his opponent wouldn't know how Lee Sin works, so he acted like he didn't know how Lee Sin works. So Gotta love those 10-headed plays. But yeah, so that worked out actually really well for Gavone, getting that unspeakable horror out as well. A little bit of a misplay, it seems, there by the Duelist. Will be able to just kind of, I don't know, just a little extra to help Gavone kind of push forward here for the win.
I was trying to look at the deck list and see if there's literally any way that the Duelist could kill this Lee Sin by popping the barrier, and the answer is only 2 more unspeakable horrors and a Grasp of the Undying. But since we know that he had 3 8+ cost cards in hand thanks to the Trundle Behold, literally just no way to kill it.
Well, 2 Grasp would have done it too, right?
Yeah, but he only had 9 mana.
Oh, he had 9. Okay, yeah, yep. So that is exactly what he would have needed, and yeah. So I don't think he just didn't know. I'm pretty positive.
I've seen so many people be like, all right, we have to give Lee Sin barrier to Dragon's Rage our opponent's unit, and it's like, what?
Nope, you literally don't have to do anything because Dragon's Rage takes care of it. Dragon's Rage, I will say, in everybody's the one Usgar of the tournament off the field. What I was saying is, I will say in everybody's defense throughout the entire tournament, Dragon's Rage is a funky card as far as how it interacts with a lot of different things. So it doesn't surprise me that that's the card that we're seeing people get confused a little bit around. I also do think Dragon's Rage is great as just a card, as a 7-cost card in general. I think it's a little underrated. So with Lee Sin, obviously, it's amazing. And there it is. He's like, wait, what is this 2 again? Yeah.
You guys are about to see. I don't know how many of you have seen the Bale site before. This is the coolest animation in Legends of Runeterra. I'm so excited to see this result. Oh, please don't deny it. I know you kind of have to, but
for the sake of us seeing a cool visual, you have to lose this game, Gavone.
Man, this is not great for Gavone because he doesn't have a way to protect the Lee Sin. It does have vulnerable thanks to this Ice Pillar. Nothing he can really do about that. This does mean the Trundle is actually going to be significantly weaker the next time around because he is losing 2 8-cost cards that he can behold.
Did I imagine that? I feel like when he hovered Bale Sight at one point, it was burst speed, and then it changed to fast. I want to look at the replay because it looked like it was burst speed, and then when he hovered it again, it changed back to fast. Unless he was hovering over one of his own cards. It's weird.
So speaking of burst speed in a Lee Sin deck, I'm actually like, every time I look at Zenith Blade, the only reason that this card isn't burst speed that I can think of is because it has the Daybreak keyword, which is weird because I don't think we've seen a card before where the sort of keyword that you slap on it takes away from the burst speed effect that you would get out of everything else. But I mean, I guess things like Shatter aren't burst speed either, but they also deal damage, so it's kind of weird. It feels a little inconsistent.
I got to agree because a lot of their draw is burst speed as well, and technically it draws. So it's not only a buff, but also draws, both of which they've kind of, the game has said, okay, it's going to be burst speed for those 2 things, and it's slow speed. It's kind of weird. So
part of me was wondering how this Trundle got so big, and then I remembered that the Bale Sight got negated, so we do still see 2 Ice Pillars. Gavone has to throw out 2 spells to protect the Lee Sin. You know that your opponent has still, I want to say, yeah, all 3 unknown cards, I believe, are... Oh, no, there is a Trundle's Icequake in hand. So 2 of the unknown cards cost 8 or more. So the chances that your opponent has something to pop this barrier is really, really low.
Yeah, and sitting on 3 mana, I think you are A-okay for Gavone here. Yeah, this is going to be good. I think Gavone's going to continue to kind of make his comeback here. He's going to be able... It's basically a clock at this point, right? Because Lee Sin is going to do 4 damage at least every turn, and that's 3 more Lee Sin attacks for lethal here. But Duelist does have some heal. We do have the grass that we talked about earlier. We have multiple Catalyst, Vile Feast, Unspeakable Horror. So this game might go on a little longer than Gavone wants it to. And if that's the case, that's going to give Duelist the chance to get something like a War Mother's Call and kind of just blow this out of the water.
This is what I was concerned about, sort of looking at this matchup. I mean, we had talked about how, okay, we're switching gears. We let the Heimer die. We're going for the Lee Sin win con. Lee Sin, if you don't have Overwhelm, takes a long time to win a game. I am not impressed by the late game presence of a Lee Sin.
Of a regular Lee Sin, yeah.
Yeah. And there's no way to give him Overwhelm in PZ Ionia.
No. No, it's really just Noxus and now Targon.
Targon.
Yeah, so It's kind of a weird combination. I mean, when you originally told me Heimerdinger, I was like, okay, maybe it's with Karma, maybe it's with, like, there's a whole slew of champions I was expecting, not Lee Sin. But it seems like it's been working out at least okay for Gavone. I mean, we did say earlier, for those of you who are just joining us, Gavone went 4-3 throughout the first day of the tournament with this particular deck. So it hasn't performed great for him either.
I am a little surprised at our willingness to kick this She Who Wanders back to the hand of the Duelist, because if Duelist just replays this, Gavone loses half his hand.
Does Gavone just lose the game if it's replayed? Okay, well,
I don't think so.
He's
okay, going for the War Mothers instead.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that got kicked back as well. What is it? And a Trundle gets some. I think that's going to be game then.
He can actually kill the Trundle here.
Yeah, but okay, let's see. It's going to be 10. There's going to be 11 mana plus a summon on War Mothers and the She Who Wanders. And he doesn't have a deny. I don't know. I really don't like that kick back to the hand for the She Who Wanders. I was going to say, if he top decks a deny, then we're all just idiots, but how many deny is he playing?
He's only playing 2.
Okay, there's only 2.
Are we on the so I really like, starting off the turn with this Chump Wump and getting those mushrooms to my hand. If I am going to lose everything, I might as well get those shrooms out.
I mean, do you wait for your opponent to play it, though, and then play the Chump Wump as a blocker?
The She Who Wanders that's going to obliterate
it from my
right.
Hand? It always does hand, too.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
It's a rough one out here.
So, okay, playing both pillars. All right, well, it doesn't seem like Duelist is going for She Who Wanders, playing these pillars.
He's still got 10 mana. I think I just wanted to give everything vulnerable first, but... Okay, Tryndamere. This is not a winning line from Duelist. Gavone has the stun for this. Is there Atrocity in this deck? Is that what are we trying to, like, kill our Tryndamere and then Atrocity our opponent? There are... Oh, that's the wrong deck.
Huh. So
there are 2 Atrocity.
Yeah, there's 2 Atrocity, and this is interesting. If all right, can Gavone avoid taking any damage this turn? The answer is yes. Yeah. So that won't work, and that means there's 2 solid turns of Duelist potentially just drawing damage through shrooms. But you gotta think though, somewhere in Duelist's hand, he must have heal. There must be a grasp or a vile field, literally anything.
Well, no, actually, because we know that he's constantly overloaded on these 8+ cost cards thanks to the Trundle Behold ability, so he's only sitting on 1 or 2 cards that don't cost 8 mana. It's definitely not unreasonable for him to... I mean, he needs specifically Grasp of the Undying or Withering Wail. Vile Feast or Unspeakable Horror is not going to be enough to survive this Lee Sin kick.
Oh my god, he just gets it on the first draw! 3 shrooms!
What?
Oh my god! It doesn't matter. Heal doesn't matter if you just take the damage before you can even play it.
That was the cheesiest.
Oh my god. Hey man, a win is a win is a win, okay? Oh wow, Gems, muchas gracias for the raid. You guys came in at a fantastic moment. We just saw
actually, you guys came in at the worst moment. You just missed the Lee Sin Heimer deck.
Okay, I guess if you look at it that way, it was the worst moment. But that was, oh my god, man. That was Heimer Lee Sin playing Trump Wumps for shrooms, and his opponent drawing all 3 with 3 health left. What if
that's what every win against the War Mother's Call has looked like for him thus far? Okay, I still can't get over it. It looks like he's drinking pickle juice, right?
Yeah, it's pickle juice.
I think it's just the way the light hits. I guess it's like a green water bottle, but it looks like this man is winning through shrooms and chugging pickle juice his way through this tournament. So now we are going to have the Trundle Ladros deck. No War Mother's Call in this one, but we do have that Revitalizing Roar Atrocity combo. 3 copies of each, going for Thresh over Sejuani versus the War Mother's Control. Shit, these decks are extremely similar. Which one do you think gets the slight edge?
Oh man, this one's gonna be a tough one. Does one of them really have an edge? I mean, we have the Thresh that's gonna pull out a Trundle a little bit faster.
I don't think Trundle ever levels in this matchup.
I don't think so either.
I really don't think there are enough units in the game to level the Trundle in this matchup. Or the Thresh, rather.
So, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Ladros deck has the advantage just because of Ladros. But That's a real tough one. I'm very curious to see if Ladros is actually the difference maker here, because it feels like that should win. But at the end of the day, if Duelist is able to get off a War Mother's Call, then then Ladros doesn't matter. It's just going to overload the field with, Tryndamirs, Trundles, big units, and he's just going to be able to overwhelm Gavone anyways. So, depends. I think if Gavone draws the Commander Ladros before Duelist gets the War Mother's Call off, then Gavone's going to have the advantage here.
It is strange to me that Duelist isn't running a Ladros of his own. Generally, I want to say that the War Mother's control should be pretty heavily favored here, but that's when they run the Ladros. Instead, as you mentioned, yeah, I think that if there's no War Mothers on the side of Duelist, which will be, it's kind of a tough ask because both players are going to be able to start turning their shit on turn 9, as we haven't seen any ramp out of Gavone just yet. Duelist, actually has the 2-1 damage spells. Gavone went for sort of the safe block onto the Trundle instead of pushing damage onto this Avarician Heartguard, saying, I don't want to die to a Vile Feast, but my opponent just has 2 Vile Feasts, and we are 1 mana shy of the Avalanche board clear.
Wow.
Now the Trundle regen going to kick in. This is not looking great in the early game for Gavone. Can clear up everything except the Trundle and Wording Stone, but we're getting closer and closer to that War Mother's turn. And when you're... Ooh, the Icequake. She's going for the big mana commitment.
Okay, but doesn't Avalanche accomplish the same thing there?
Yes. Except now we can Unspeakable Horror to kill the Wording Stone next turn?
I don't know if that is worth using. I mean, okay, I guess, are you really ever going to get better value out of the Icequake, I guess? And
I think, actually, yes, because of the attack reduction.
Okay, especially if it's big units versus big units. It's definitely going to matter later on in the game. Yeah, I'm not crazy about that Icequake. I feel like Avalanche did the same thing there, but we'll see. I mean, the Avalanche is also more versatile late game, I guess you could argue, because it is a lower mana commitment, but...
See, I was going to say that the Icequake is more versatile late game because of the attack.
I'm just thinking from a mana perspective, right? Like, you can hold open less mana and still have that card as a viable option, but I still would rather have kept the Icequake.
Gavone needs to find some kind of ramp, though. Is just out of 5 attack cards in the deck, it is just the 2 Ladros, so the Bjerg not getting any value here. Just going to kind of come down as a Trundle blocker. There's a big Tryndamere on the side of the Duelist, and this could just be probably the quickest control mirror I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, this is what I was worried about on the side of Duelist, and this is actually without War Mothers, right? So I was worried about him getting War Mothers to get these units out. He's just getting them out on his own, and honestly, there's nothing that Gavone can really do about it right now, which just feels really bad. So, yeah, this might be pretty quick, but is gonna, I guess, get rid of the...
Yeah, we get to kill half of
I don't know how much I like that.
And I think Gavone is just dead to an atrocity. A troll chance, what are you...
Oh my God. That's some dedication towards keeping your Tryndamere alive, man. That's oh my God.
And we're still not even on the Ladros turn for Gavone. He's 1 mana shy, doesn't have Ruination either. And I think you can't even... The Avalanche wasn't even setting up for a Ruination because we still don't have the mana for that. I think you have to get the Ice Pillar down here as a blocker, but even that doesn't work because, well, I guess you have to play Ice Pillar and the Avarician Sentry, but that's not a winning line. They just overwhelmed the Sentry, but the problem is if you just play the Pillar, then Duelist's Pillar just challenges your Pillar, and the overwhelm units get to go through. The 8 health that you try to set up for yourself as a blocker isn't effective here.
Yeah, and the attack token over to Gavone, but Duelist kind of thinking what he's going to do here. I mean, obviously, for now, Gavone is chilling. Has the Revitalizing Roar if he wants to use that possibly when he's Enlightened. But I guess the question is he even going to make it to being Enlightened and still be alive? And I'm not sure if he does.
I don't think there's a winning line for Gavone here. You kind of want to pass to bluff Vengeance and say, oh, you can't Atrocity me. And then you just die to an open attack. Because you don't actually have the Vengeance. And you kind of need that at some point. So we are going to see the Catalyst just heal himself up, get himself onto that Revitalizing Roar turn next turn. So if he does, by some miracle, survive here, he will actually have pretty near lethal in the next couple of turns with this Revitalizing Roar Ladros Atrocity combo.
We'll see what Duelist decides to do here. Just a quick update, too, for anybody who's wondering, because I know Boulevard had asked earlier about Guardia, and Guardia did not drop. He did not drop. What it was he went 7-0, and he just forfeited the last 2 matches, so that, I mean, he's going to make top cut anyways. So then he'll be in the top cut. So thank God Team Aratu's Guardia, my pick to win it all, is still in the top cut. Not only that, he's chilling, being able to take the last 2 rounds off because he did that good.
So we do see the atrocity out of Duelist, who says, you know what, I'm going to put you down to 1. Let's see how you handle these 2 Overwhelm units. With 11 mana, you can't play 2 Vengeance. Even with 13 mana, you can't play 2 Vengeance. And I don't think there's anything you could possibly do to stop me from just absolutely murdering you with this Trundle and Tryndamere. Slight misstep, actually. Not, you know, challenging the pillar with the pillar, but Gavone is going to fall down to X and 3 here. We're not sure that he's out of contention for top 32. I actually didn't get a chance to check the EU side of things and see how many X3s had made it to the top 32 on their side of things, but, you know, that is a little unfortunate for our friend here. The Chad Stride was kind of on the up and up, topping the last couple Duels of Runeterra, but, you know, might just be out of this qualifier.
All right, there we have it. And like I mentioned, that's going to be the last round of the day. Or the last round of the tournament, I should say, even though there was 9 rounds, just because of some issues we had with the 9th round game starting on time. But with that said, we are going to go ahead and cut to a top 32. Top 32 double elimination as well, because we do need 6 places here in this tournament, obviously, to see who qualifies. So that is what is going to be coming up next in the videos for the rest of the week. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you turn on that bell so you get notified when those videos go live. And as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.